Preparing to live stream the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Setting up your meeting for YouTube Live. Dawn redirecting to YouTube. We are live, people. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I hope that this is going to be a very educational and inspirational discussion. First, I feel like the three of us would like to express our deep sympathies for the tragic and horrific murders that have taken place across the country. College students at Idaho State and in Colorado. Terrible, terrible things have been happening in the last 48 hours. Our young people are just, they're not safe. And it's very difficult times that we're living in. I'm Pauline Schneider, and I'm very excited to be here with Guy and to welcome our dear friend, Mimi Riley, who is coming to us all the way from, are you in Butte right now, or are you in Chico?
Yeah, I'm in my office, Butte. Yeah. I'm out there. I'm out here. Wildlife preserve.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Guy, would you like to say a couple things about yourself? You just did a little, like an Indian head bobblehead thing.
Head bobble, yeah. Since July 8th, 2014, I've had a post on my blog, guymcpherson.com, titled Contemplating Suicide. Please read this. And it's on the homepage. It's been on the homepage since July 8th, 2014, although the blog is under constant attack, so it disappeared for a while here and there. And basically, I'm not judgmental about other people's circumstances. However, I'm not a fan of people committing suicide. I agree with Archbishop Desmond Tutu that every human being has the right to make the decision to end his or her own life. And I have a very long essay on the blog written by Martin Manley on his 60th birthday, the date he chose to commit his own suicide. It's an unbelievably thoughtful, long message that anybody who has suicidal ideation, I would encourage them to read. And think about what you're actually doing. Think about who you're leaving behind. Think about the pain that you're going to cause to the people in your life before you just decide, oh, I'm having a bad day. That makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Well, like the Buddha said, life is suffering. And that doesn't mean life is completely suffering, but it's sometimes it can be very, very excruciating. So,
and Mimi Riley has worked with young people, with students for a long time. And she has had more recent experience than we have, direct experience with young people and what they're going through at this very challenging time. So Mimi, would you say a few words about yourself and maybe what you'd like to talk about here?
Sure. Well, I talk about my education. I'm not going to. So I began working here as a full-time instructor at Butte College in 2001, about 3 weeks before 9/11. And I'm a trained sociologist. I'm a very critical theorist. For me, it's all about justice, social justice, environmental justice. and telling the truth, all of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because I don't lie. And I will not lie to my students, and I never have. Have I been written up? No. It's something called academic freedom. So I teach, I have been teaching since I've been here, a class called Global Problems in the Culture of Capitalism. And that is probably been a very depressing class for my students, although they love it, because I have connected the dots, in my view, because my thing is macro theory of power. And so you have to connect all the dots together. And that's the path I take my students on. I don't start off heavy, but we get into some very, very current, serious problems, issues, dilemmas that are happening in society. And I have had a student before tell another student that he was thinking about. He had suicidal ideation, and that young man turned his life around, and he became the most badass firefighter in, I don't know. I mean, he works these wildfires that we have in California, because he's figured it out that what gives his life meaning is to serve and to work for the common good.
Mhm.
So I have a sustainability class as well that I created in 2007. That one used to look at all the solutions that we thought could have been possible, you know, food system, energy systems, city planning, you know, the whole thing. And now when I teach that class, it's getting way more difficult. So I've had to switch up the subject matter, because when I walk into that class, I write on the board, our sustainable future, and then I wait for a few minutes and I look at them, and then I put a question mark there. And I ask them why I did that. You know, some of them know, some of them are perplexed. They're deer in the headlight. They don't know. But so that class has been changed drastically, because I used to give them a lot of hope. A lot of hope. That was a really hopium addict's perfect place to be. And now I'm teaching things like, this is what they're working on right now. They just did the Great Reset. This civilization is finished. By Rupert Reed and Samuel Alexander. And, you know, the collapse of Western civilization, all of it. It's just, I'm going to be ending my career soon. And I feel like I just have to pull everything out now.
Mhm.
And also, I've added in now at the very end, because I just met Britt Ray, who wrote the book Generation Dread. And it completely speaks to me and my experiences with students. And the eco-anxiety and the depression and I mean, it's just off the charts. We all know that. And the majority of it is caused by uncertainty, by fear, by anxiety. And all of this has to do with, they don't know what, the nuclear meltdown, nuclear war, what's going to come first, economic collapse, extinction. I mean, we've lost so much of it already. And they know it now. They know it. So I will end the final week of my class with open-ended conversations about, I'll have them read part of that book about how they're feeling and what they can do from here on.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt, but I should point out that Britt Ray is a professor at Stanford University, so she has some credentials for writing that book.
Yes. And she was also at COP27. So she got to see firsthand the cop outness.
Mimi, I've been in some of your classes over the years, and were the classes I in either of the ones you just talked about?
Yeah. think you were a guest speaker
I think so.
in a
But
couple of my classes. Yeah.
it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Now, people who want to send in questions, where are those going to appear? Are they going to appear?
Well, they're here in the live chat, and I can see those questions. And what I can do is I can copy and paste into our Zoom chat so that you folks can see them. So, for example, Audrey Ginsburg writes, "Guy was a badass fighter too."
You
Firefighter.
still are.
Yes.
So, Mimi, I wanted to ask you about your students over the years. Did you have students that were critically depressed to the point where they had to leave, or that you had to
No,
go
they
and
did not leave my. They didn't leave my class, as far as I know, for that type of reason.
Mhm.
But certainly they expressed to me that they didn't know how to hold it all, because their family and their friends and their peer groups didn't know any of it. And every time they would start to talk about any of it, they would just brush them away. Like, we don't want to hear that depressing stuff, or that's not true. Climate change is not happening, whatever, you know? And so I would tell them, the first thing you need to do is hook up with groups of people, preferably people your age, who know this stuff and who are going through the same thing, because there you're going to find camaraderie, you're going to find peace. Hopefully you're going to find answers. You're going to find a lot of other people are feeling the same way as you. Because that's it. They feel like they're the only one that feels this way, you know, in our highly individuated society.
Right.
That's a shame.
Right.
Yeah, you know, this entire society is addicted to hope. Everybody I know thinks hope is a good thing. Apparently, essentially, nobody has looked in their dictionary to see what hope actually means. From my Merriam-Webster online dictionary, here's the definition of hope: to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true. That's wishful thinking. I want a lot of things to happen. Hoping doesn't make it so. And this I'm not sure if it started with the Bible, the Christian Bible, and went from to the rest of society from there, or if we've just always been addicted to hope. But I think once people understand the meanings of words, they might think it differently about things they currently hold to be true.
Yeah, well, hope is future living, right? And it's future fantasy living.
Absolutely. It's what we want to happen in the future.
Yeah, but they do nothing about it.
Right. It's reminiscent of the Grief Recovery Institute and their definition of grief, just wishing for a different past. We can't fix what happened in the past. It happened. We don't have much control over what happens in the future. Wishing for something to happen isn't going to make it happen.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
We have a couple of questions. Do you see them there in the chat?
In the chat.
So if you look down at the bottom of your screen,
yeah.
Mimi, I can read them to you.
Okay.
David Lutz asks, Mimi, what brings you joy? Do you look forward to anything?
Yeah, I do. What brings me joy is the people I love that are on the same wavelength that I am. Because it's very difficult to talk to people when you know so much that just absolutely do not agree with you. I find that very stressful, and I try to avoid that. What brings me joy is loving the people I love, beauty, especially in the wilderness, Positive, really positive music where people share that together. Yeah, and my passion really has been in teaching for all these years. It's been, I don't know, 38 years since I started my academic journey. And this has been the most incredible ride in my life that I never dreamed I would have. And I'm just absolutely grateful for that. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Hope that answered your question.
That's a good question.
Do I look forward to anything? Retiring and trying to be a person that is free.
It's funny you say that, because when I retired, became professor emeritus, that was the worst mistake I ever made in my life. I loved my life on campus, and I thought I would love being away from it. It didn't turn out that way. So be careful what you wish for.
I know. I have always heard that from you, Guy, for God knows how long, 10, 12 years. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to do what Guy did. I'm not going to cash out all my retirement. And no, I'm gonna milk it for everything I can because I love doing it.
Well,
I love it, and so why shouldn't I be?
Right, exactly. On the
What else
other
am I
hand,
gonna
I've
do?
had the most amazing adventures, which never would have happened had I not walked away.
Yeah, you have, for sure.
Yeah, but you don't get to hear him complaining, wishing that he
Well,
was
I
back in the university teaching those kids. He loved it,
Yeah,
absolutely loved it.
I know.
And
I know.
it's a shame. But now he
know,
gets to
guys.
teach me and other people here on the internet. So
Yeah,
we
and
make up
all my
for it.
students know about you, and I actually have them watch things by you. So
Mimi,
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you some of those. This book is amazing, and I only got through the introduction, and I've just been running around since, so I didn't get to actually read the book. But
Are you talking generation?
I'm talking about Generation Dread.
Okay.
Finding purpose in an age of climate crisis. Can you give us some, fill in the blanks for this book briefly, and tell us what, who should read this book?
And while you're at it, why don't you hit the difference between purpose and hope? Because purpose is in the subtitle of the book.
It's very different. Well, everyone should read the book. Every person should read this book because it's affecting not just the younger generation, which I see my students now are completely different than they were 10 years ago, which is when you met most of them, Guy. And because they were on fire. They were on fire. They wanted to know every single detail. And they went on to do amazing things. And they're incredible people. And my students now, they just look at their iPhone the whole time. And every day I have to tell them, either take that out or look at me, because I'm trying to teach you something very important. Oh, maybe you're just kind of bored because you already know all this stuff. Because if so, I'm just kind of wasting my time, right? Or maybe you don't know it at all and you just think I'm a tin hat. I got a tin hat on my head and I'm a nut. And how did they ever let me into this college to teach? How did I ever get tenure? It's completely different right now. And I'm actually losing my passion because it's extremely difficult to get through to them now, because I think they're living in such overwhelm. I mean, what is true and what is not true? There we go, right? That's first thing right there. If they can't know what's true and what is not true, like in the scientific realm, at least where how we all grew up, then who are they going to believe about anything? What are they going to believe? They're not going to, they're shut down. My experience is that they're utterly shut down.
Well, and
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up a really important topic is how do you know a truth from a falsehood? And we have this incredible tool in front of us. All of us right now are looking at these tools right now. They're amazing. We can find so much information, and maybe 50% of it is BS. But there are places to go that you can, discern the truth, pull the thread through things. So much is out there. You really need to, I recommend everyone go to some website or get a book on Logic 101. Get some basic critical thinking skills. Do them. It's mathematical computation. It's if this, then that. It really works. And I was so pissed. I'm in college. I'm getting my bachelor's as an adult person with children, and I have to take this logic class, and I'm like, why didn't I learn this in high school? And that having those skills helps you discern truth from falsehood, or there's so many things out there that have the two of them mixed together, and that gets even trickier, and it makes it so hard.
That's the basis for half the things I see on YouTube.
It's
this mixture of fact and fiction.
Yeah, it makes it so hard. And I think, I know a lot of people are very confused right now, or they're very certain. I don't know if there's an in between.
Well,
magic
I think
place.
the people that are checked out are a whole nother breed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I feel for them. I mean, I can't imagine being their age in these times. I just can't imagine.
No.
I mean, I cannot imagine. And I try to imagine, and I think I'm pretty good at that. I think I'm very intuitive, and I do my best to try to wrangle it in a different way, or get them to, I'm very Socratic in my teaching. So I'm always trying to pull questions out for them. I ask the questions, I put something on the board to ask questions about that. Specific questions. And, for the last, 21 years here, people are always responding, and then they're talking to each other about it. Now it's just radio silence, deer in the headlight, and then they look back down at their phone. I'm like, you're kidding. Okay, please tell me you're kidding me, that you cannot answer that question.
Maybe you should teach using this platform, and then they could look at their phones instead of having, to look up.
I don't know. I'd have to have
and
some
they can
kind
type
of
in their questions.
a surveillance system to deal with people that are doing it like that, because you got to be present, man. You got to be here now.
Manfred asks, is anyone making any effort to educate the climate activists on the aerosol masking effect? As near as I can tell, this is the best kept secret in climate science. Nobody talks about it, pure and simple. So we have people like Roger Hallam encouraging young people to go to jail, as if that's going to make a difference. Oh yeah, he spent time in jail, and he encourages young people to do the same. That's the whole basis of Extinction Rebellion, is the individual extinction and the rebellion part.
Yeah. Well, one of the authors of this book is part of Extinction Rebellion. He thinks it's great. To each his own. There's just so many ways that people are processing and acting upon or not acting upon the things that come in. Nuclear war, nuclear meltdown, economic collapse, the Great Reset.
The author you just talked about of that book denies aerosol masking.
This book right here.
Yeah.
They deny it. Yeah, I never thought in this book. I
had an email back and forth with him for a month, and he would never admit to the peer-reviewed evidence indicating that there's such a thing as the aerosol masking effect. He just doesn't believe it. And so that's why it's all about the rebellion, because they don't understand the consequences.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like Mario Savio said, back in the 60s, 1968, I think it was, at UC Berkeley, right
Sproul
there
Plaza.
before Sproul Hall. Yeah, you said, there comes a time when the machine, it becomes so odious that you have to lay yourself down. You have to sacrifice yourself to the machine to fight against the machine.
Mhm.
Something to that effect. And that, those times are different. I mean, they didn't arrest activists. They didn't call them terrorists. They didn't steal money out of their bank account. They didn't cancel their insurance or take their home. I mean, these are democratic countries.
Yeah.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
In name. Yeah.
The interesting thing about, the new method of activism is the pre-planned arrest. That it's arranged. I mean, I was part of that. I was part of the stop the pipelines,
Yeah.
And we were reassured that, we needed to have $100 because that was the fee. That was the get out of jail fee. And they explained to us, what would happen. They had already talked with the DC Park Service, and they were going to arrest us. They were going to put us on a bus, and then they would put us in a tent, and it wasn't going to go on the record or anything. But it was just, it was all for show.
Yeah.
I was still scared. I'd never been arrested before. I was like, I don't know what this is going to feel like. And it's your body.
Yeah, I know. I was there.
Lock you up.
I watched the whole thing happen, and I wanted to get arrested too, but I showed up a day too late to be trained by Duncan and whoever the other people were, 350 and Maybove, and so we just watched it. I'll tell you a really cool story that one of my students at the time, she was barely 18. She had a ticket to Burning Man. Okay. She sold her ticket to Burning Man to go get arrested in Washington, D.C. And I have pictures of these long red dreads in her hand. And I'm just like, you're my hero. I'm going to put your portrait above my, I don't know.
Right.
And, she's still in my life. She showed up on Christmas Eve last year, 11 o'clock at night, knocking on the door.
Aww.
Just bubbling with like whatever. And we just stayed and talked for like 3 hours. It's beautiful. So, yeah, I don't know.
Those connections are important.
They are very important. Most of my students in that entire, 10 or whatever year period, 10, 12, whatever period, they're some of my best friends now. Because they know they can come to me. One of them called me the other day and said, I've got a dilemma I really need to talk to you about. I was in the campfire. Now this European producer wants me to be one of the voices that spoke about, because she was a nurse in Paradise. The hospital burnt down. She got in her car. She tried to leave. A fire truck hit her, and she was literally running through the fire.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was a harrowing story, like many of them were. And she said, Mimi, I don't know, like, to do it or not to do it. Is it going to bring up stuff? I said, we talked for a long time. I said, you do what feels right for you. She said, well, I really don't want to do it because it brings up the memories, but I'm going to do it for other people. And here again, we have coming to the surface, the purpose of life is to serve, is to help, is to
help each other get through this. Help each other get through this.
Whatever this is.
Whatever this is, right?
Yeah. And, in times of crises, studied a lot about this, that many times in times of crises where you have a community, I don't, however big, they come together like one being. They come together in spite of their differences, and they act together as one
Mm-hmm.
for the greater good.
Yeah.
We were sort of quoting Mark Vonnegut there, Kurt Vonnegut's son. When asked, why are we here? He said, we are here to help each other through this, whatever this is.
Great response.
Yeah. Speaking of responses, we have a question from somebody.
Audrey has a question.
Right. But before that,
Oh,
how worth is it to live working for restoration or protection of ecosystems when we are already poor and lacking of opportunity in the capitalist sense? And I have a couple of thoughts. But Mimi, if you have a thought, please go first.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're living in a trap. We're living in a system. Max Weber called it the iron cage of rationality, where we're going to die, and until the last ton of fossilized fuel is burnt. That's what he wrote back in, over 120 years ago. And so the problem is for me that I have a whole list of things that I would suggest. The problem is time. They don't have the time and they don't have the money because of the largest transfer of wealth that happened in the history of the world during COVID, and started with Ronald Reagan and took away all of the time and all of the public service that people could do and all of those things. My students are like, are you kidding me? I have 5 kids. I'm working 2 jobs. My partner's working 2 jobs. We can barely make it. So what? How am I going to be a citizen? How am I going to get involved in eco restoration or planetary hospice or any of these other things? Just no way. And that is by design.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely by design.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yes, of course. And how worth it? And that's an individual personal question. How worth it is it to you? I don't know. I can't help myself. If I could help myself, I would have stopped trying to relay this message 10 years ago about near-term human extinction. If I had any brains at all, but I can't help myself. It's part of my character. So if you can't afford to work for restoration or protection of ecosystems because you lack opportunity, because you're already poor, I don't know. I can't encourage anybody to do that if it's killing you.
Well, they're already dying. Well, they're going to die anyway, of course. But, these are people that are prime candidates for stress-related illness, right?
Robert Leisure asks, how does, and more specifically, where does one draw the line in convincing a loved one of the extreme dire nature of the biosphere and its imminent demise? Or is it better to leave them blissfully ignorant?
Leave them. Leave them. They don't need that dragon. Lock it, ball and chain.
Yep.
People ask me sometimes that don't know anything really about what I teach, including my mother, who's 92. She doesn't want to know. She's never asked me what I teach. She's never asked to see one of my syllabi. She lives in the same town that I do.
What?
Yeah, like Mimi, you made it, pretty much through your PhD program because you didn't write your dissertation, but you got this great job and you're doing incredible at it, and the students love you. So what is it that you teach? Never, ever. My brother, my sister, no one in my family.
What?
They don't want to know because they know what they're going to hear. They know what they're going to hear.
That's interesting. My family doesn't want to know. They know, but they refuse to admit it. So they just won't talk to me. They just look the other way.
Yeah.
So we have no communication.
Yeah. fine with that. We have,
Audrey
you know, the
asked,
little chit chat stuff, but
right.
you know, God forbid that the youngest child in the family went on to actually, you know, be a very effective educator. I don't pick those fights. I don't fall into that trap. If they were to ask me, I would first ask them, well, what do you know? What do you think? I would just pull it out of them. I'm not going to say a word.
Audrey has a question for Mimi. Do you encounter students who are acolytes of staggeringly conservative and abrupt climate change denier Jordan Peterson?
That's a great sentence, Audrey.
Because he's everywhere. I see him all the time. I just can't get away from him.
I have never listened to him for more than, I don't know, 3 minutes. I don't know
that long? You lasted that long?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't even know what the guy's about. So first of all, I don't know or care anything about him. I don't know any people that think or care about him or talk about him. And absolutely, certainly not this generation of students, Gen Dread. They wouldn't even know that name if you had them watch 12 of his YouTubes. They wouldn't be able to tell them the name. Yeah. They don't know anything.
If they don't know who he is.
I asked my youngest kid the other day, do you know who Jordan Peterson is? And their answer, like lightning, was F that guy.
Really?
This is a 25-year-old, so.
Well, it's a sociological phenomenon. I should look at it a little bit more, you know, with my my little bowl or something. I don't know. But just because it's a phenomenon, and I don't know anything about it. I don't care to, but that's not very scholarly of me. I probably should.
He's a misogynist. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. I got that.
Yeah.
Somebody, I can't remember his name, made a short documentary film with me. And first it had Jordan Peterson talking at length, and then me. And it made it sound, or maybe it was the other way around. It was the other way around. It made it look as if he was responding directly to me and saying all kinds of terrible things about how stupid I was. But of course, he never even saw the video of what I had to say. Anyway, this second draft, his part was removed. So that was good news. So it went on the circuit, as it were, without that nonsense in it, which is good.
Well, that's good that they I mean, that really is not the proper way in an academic or intellectual situation to discuss things or debate things. We all know that. So,
but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I know.
One of the recommendations on this live chat comes from wait, where'd it go? I want to read it. It's from Jazz Farm, who's an old friend, and he suggests that we drop out, build a mud hut, raise chickens, and F the man.
Okay, revive Timothy Leary and sort of.
And if anybody follows him, if you follow him on Instagram, the work he has done is just incredible. He has the most beautiful farm out in the middle of nowhere, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of work.
That's great.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That's a very good one. I like it. I like it a lot. Although I do think the tune in, turn out, wait, tune in,
turn on,
turn off, turn on, tune off,
tune. I think it's tune in, turn on, and turn off, tune out.
Well, I mean,
tune in and tune out. That doesn't make any sense.
You're like one of my heroes, you know. Anyway, it's shut the thing off and turn on. That's it, you know, and forget everybody else.
Just eat some mushrooms. Shut up
Yeah,
and eat
just
mushrooms.
smoke it, eat the water, just suck on it for a while.
Right.
I was
And
interviewed.
I think that did a lot. I think that
Oh, there it
movie
is. Omega
did a
Man's
lot.
got it.
Okay,
Omega
tell
Man got it.
us.
Here, I'm gonna type it in here in our little chat. Turn
First-
on, tune in, drop out.
Yes. Turn on.
That's
tune
what we were
in,
saying.
Drop out. That's really
Now, here's an interesting thing. I wrote like all these notes for tonight because I just
I
wanted
did
to be
too.
prepared for whatever might happen. But Omega Man brings up this idea of dropping out. And one of the interesting things is these kids are stressed.
What are
And
you
when they
talking
get
about?
college students.
Michael Mann?
No,
Michael Mann?
college students.
Oh,
They get
okay, go
stressed.
ahead.
They're in college. They're trying to fulfill the expectations of their parents. And I don't know, you probably see some of that.
All the time.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did with my kids is I just like, do what you want to do. If you want to take this class, take it. If you don't want to take it, don't
Yeah.
take it. And just drop out if you want to drop out. It's not a very popular thing for parents to say.
I think it's healthy.
It absolutely. Look, if we really believe our days are numbered, and they are anyway, what's the point? What's the point of pressuring your kids to go take a degree, to study until their eyeballs fall out? And I was reading some statistics about depression and suicide. Apparently, young women in college suffer one of the highest rates of depression and suicide attempts. Males succeed far more than women.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, I understand that.
Yeah.
I have seen those stats too.
Yeah.
Well, my own daughter, who you met, Guy, she's 24, almost 24. And she got out of high school early because it was just ridiculous. And I got her until she took the proficiency test, like my son, who's 42, and myself when I was 16. It was like high school. What are you kidding? And my kids both went straight to community college. Actually, they came here because they were living here then. And my daughter took my class, 16 years old. Yeah. So she knows what's going on. She knows, but she's putting it in a drawer somewhere because it doesn't allow her to function. So now she is killing it at Santa Monica City College, and she will get into the cognitive science program at UCLA or UC San Diego, that was where they created the program. Super difficult program. She's loving calculus. She's got 110% already in that class. She's killing it.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
Because she wants to get the good job when she's done. And then her and her boyfriend will get married. Then they'll find a piece of land, and then they'll have their children. She's cognitive dissonance totally. And I say nothing because she is doing right now what she is so passionate and proud about.
Yep.
And all I can say to her is, go, girl, just you go, you're rocking it,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, it's the same thing with the students that come to me and say, my husband and I, we want to have a child, but given everything that's coming down, we feel like that's being irresponsible. And I said, no. Are you passionate about having a child? Yeah, we really are. Then do it. Do it. Extinction crises go on all the time, not all the time, but they go, when they happen and they're massive, a lot of little babies die. Little squirrel babies, every baby. I don't mean to be, I love children. I have two, and I love them, and I love babies, but it's like, if you are prepared psychologically that that is the high probability of what will happen at some point with your child, and you've really thought that through, still conclude that you're passionate, do it. Britt Ray just had a child.
Yeah.
The Stanford person that wrote Generation Dread just had a child. So she's doing what she's passionate about.
Yep. It's interesting. I know. I mean, look, there's the anti-natalist ideology is to be commended on one hand, but then on the other, you're like, we're all going to die anyway.
Yeah.
We're toast. You know, there's nothing that we can do right now that's going to stop what's coming.
Well, are they talking anything about all the old stuff that was written, like, you know, overshoot and population bomb, and, you know, was that our friend Ehrlich?
Yeah,
he did the population bomb. Yeah. And
1968.
Yeah, limits to growth, all of it, right? Are they plugging into any of that information that we had around, you know, how long was that? 40, 50? What? 1968. That was like 40 something years.
Just round off to 1,000. It was 1,000 years ago. 1970 was 52 years ago. 52 years ago.
No, yes,
and
you're right.
Limits to growth is 50 years ago.
Yeah, 72, right?
And Ehrlich's book was 68. So that's 54 years. That's a long time.
It's 5,400 years ago, because as far as the people now concerned, they don't know anything about those people.
Yeah, you know, one of the more bizarre things about that book, it's credited only to Paul, but it was co-written by Anne. But the publisher said a woman couldn't possibly know anything about human population overshoot, so she can't have her name on the book.
See, it was 1,000 years ago, before women had any rights.
And they have subsequently written a couple of dozen books together.
Yeah.
But they wrote that and had both their names on it, obviously.
Wow. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. Wow.
I was interviewed by Political Misfits earlier today, and they were asking me about COP and what it all means anyway. And so my final paragraph was, ask anyone who has taken even a small dose of the right mushrooms. Trust them, not me. We are one. It's long past time we started acting like it. And we are, and I can't get anybody to admit to it.
Well, let them go study some quantum physics for a while. They'll figure it out. It's all energy. And we are too. We're all connected. I was reading a quote by Nietzsche this morning that I've heard before, but it really touched me for just thinking about this. And it's this one. Battle not with monsters, lest you become a monster. And if you gaze into the abyss also gazes into you. And it struck me because I read another person's sort of take on it, and it really struck me that that's what I wanted to say here today, to give some ideas about how can they give their life meaning and purpose today, right? And so this person says, okay, it gazes back and tells you what you are made of. And you know, you might be surprised that even in the midst of the monsters, you can find your own heroism and the goodness of others and yourself.
Right.
I like that interpretation.
That's
amazing. I mean, we are living in some very nihilistic times.
I think the best metric of a person's character is how they act in the face of impossible times.
Yeah.
Right? If you know you're going to die, and we all do, right? We were given a terminal diagnosis at birth. Birth is a sexually transmitted disease that is proven fatal in every case. And we know that by the time we're 11 or 12 years old. And yet we don't stop living fully as a result. We don't just throw in the towel. We don't commit suicide when we turn 12 years old and we figure it out. I mean, it's hard to live fully because most of us are so distracted by societal activities and the desire to live exactly like everybody else does.
Ugh.
Right? I mean, that's what this culture tells us to do, is live like everybody else. Don't be different.
Yeah, be a debt slave
Yeah, exactly.
and die of cancer. That's good then, because you're actually a useless eater right now. And we need to get rid of all the useless eaters because, they're fucking everything up for the rest of us. Sorry. Whoop, bleep.
It's YouTube. Well,
A couple of comments here in the chats. Robert asks, how much will the temperature rise when the Arctic ice is gone? And there have been some wild guesstimates, but we don't know because it hasn't happened since the Eemian 125,000 years ago, and nobody was keeping very good records then. But when you change the color from the color of my shirt, or
to
rather
Pauline's shirt. Yeah.
When you change it from white, all that white ice and snow, to the color of my shirt, it's bound to have serious consequences, including loss of albedo or reflectance. The methane from the East Siberian Arctic shelf is almost certain to explode out of the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's going to cause local and regional warming basically immediately, and global warming within a few months. So how much? Probably enough so that the rate of environmental change will cause an even more rapid hastening of the ongoing mass extinction event, which is already the fastest one that we can measure of the 9 so far. We're at least in the 9th.
Well, I remember through you, I found Natalia Shakova and her group of people who, she's at the University of Alaska, and her people who go out, and this is their life. They study the East Siberian shelf, right? And I remember one interview with her where she was almost in tears, which a scientist does not do. And she said, if something percentage of methane comes out all at once, we're done.
Natalia Shakova, yeah.
Yeah, she did that with
love
Nick
her.
Breeze. He was the one asking the questions. I stayed with him when I was on
Oh,
Western
okay.
European tour.
I didn't know it was, yeah.
And he
And
talked about that.
Igor was with her, right?
Yes.
Her partner,
Yes.
Yeah.
Igor Smelatov.
Yeah, and that's something I really hit on heavy, is the methane in the Arctic. Siberian.
Sarah Oakley asks, Guy, can you talk about why science and scientists are not listened to?
This is the culture of make-believe.
What? I can't hear you.
To quote someone. Anyway. No, it is, right? Why don't they, Guy? There's got to be a really solid answer for that.
Why scientists aren't listened to?
Right.
This entire society is one of celebrity, not evidence. I mean, could you even imagine when you were a kid, everybody being as addicted to celebrity characters as you were when you were 8, and they never outgrow it?
No.
That's insane. And that's exactly where we are. So scientists aren't listened to because they're not celebrities. The closest thing we have to a scientist who's a celebrity is Bill Nye.
Bill Nye, the science guy.
And he's not a science guy.
I know.
He's a comedian.
But people listen to him anyway.
But he's great.
I know. But it was the National Geographic thing was so great. I still show it. because it's really hilarious, actually. You know, get Arnold Schwarzenegger in there. You've got a mix of like really serious stuff and then this crazy wacko stuff. And I mean, if that's the way you have to talk to people to get the message across, we are in deep, deep, deep trouble.
Well, he has a new series.
Oh, really?
It's like a mini series, I think, and it's all the different apocalypse, the different types of apocalypses that could wipe out all life on Earth. But it's hilarious. At the end of each one, it's like, but if we did this, and I'm like, no.
The equivalent of
if we drove a Tesla. Yeah.
If we just start right now, we'll be fine.
Let's just start now.
Like we never heard that one before.
Yeah, no, I mean that's in these guys, you know, this one.
Driving a Tesla.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the National Geographic thing that we were just talking about with Guy and Bill and Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, there was that last ending, that last part after he came to acceptance, where he's like, okay, there was the last piece of the thingy, whatever, the
very end, yeah.
He has it all hopium. It was all hopium. He's driving this Tesla down the road at 100 miles an hour, and he's like, wow, we can do, science got us into us, and science can get us out of this.
Well, he has to. Otherwise, he can't keep his hat that says the science guy on it.
Yeah. So why is he studying apocalypse now?
It's quite popular.
It's kind of the thing now, right?
It absolutely is, because people actually have it figured out that we're living in one.
Yeah. And people like those types of the special effects and everything.
So it's kind of like the dark movies, right? Like
2012.
Armageddon movies. Yeah.
I see you don't like those.
No, I don't like them at all. I think that a long time ago, artists should have been creating scenes and feelings and emotions of places that we could have created where everyone would be, I'm putting on my running shoes and I'm going there. That's where I want to go. And then somebody else, a musician or someone, whoever, does something else, or someone writes a book about it, the same kind of thing, but a different vision, a different way of making it work. Nobody hardly has done that. Hardly anybody has done it. I mean, Charles Eisenstein, the better world our hearts know is possible, but it sounds kind of groovy. It sounds sweet, but nobody does that. It's just the focusing on the bad, I think, is what's really added to the grief and fear.
Right.
Kids are watching this stuff all the time.
Well, there was Lovelock, James Lovelock, and the Gaia theory. I remember reading that in middle school, going into high school.
And that was around the time of the first Earth Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think that's around when the book came out, somewhere around there. Yeah, what a brilliant man.
Those ideas, here's the interesting thing. I'm going to go off a little bit, but I'm sure a lot of people in this, who are watching right now, have read the Lord of the Rings series. And one of the, I went back and I reread some of them as an adult later on, after having read them in high school. And it was like a slap in the face. These are about how bad war and technology are. They're stories about how to preserve nature, and this Gaia theory is intrinsically part of this story, this beautiful mythos that he weaves through his legends. And I it's like, I really feel, that is beauty and creativity. And we we don't see enough of that anymore. And I feel like that is one of the reasons many of our young people are despairing. Our culture doesn't value art and beauty and grace and tenderness.
Yeah.
And they get lost in this thing. Is, we've got young people who are, the highly sensitive individuals. Now they're snowflakes, as if there's something wrong with having feelings and being able
having
to
a heart.
and
having
being
a
empathic. Right.
And they've already proven that the heart is a more intelligent organ than the brain.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then there's the vagus nerve. They've done studies on the vagus nerve and compassion. And I thought that this was a really interesting study that they did. I don't know if anyone who's watching knows about this, but they put people at crosswalks, and they went to cross the walk, and they were taking notes of who would stop for them and who would not. And interestingly, the very, very expensive cars never stopped.
They have insurance, man.
And then they did a bunch of other, experiments, testing people's emotional responses to images, just to see how they were empathizing with somebody who was crying or was injured. And so they made this connection that the deeper your connection to your vagus nerve, this response that you got, this feeling in your heart, literally, it's this vagus nerve connection that is allowing people to connect to other people and to feel that oneness with each other.
Yeah.
And we are losing that. We're losing that. But on a hopium, when we watch images on TV even, or on our phones, we see things all the time that make us cry or laugh. So we are being triggered. We are feeling things. So I think it is really important that we don't dismiss the power of being kind to each other, and also not tolerating bullshit. And that doesn't mean we tolerate bullshit.
Right. Yeah, kindness and courage go hand in hand.
Yeah, so many people think that kindness means weakness.
Right.
It doesn't.
Because that's what women do, or the feminine does, and men don't do that. Men can't cry. Men can't, be creative. Men. And
in the American culture, men can't hold hands.
Ew.
I grew up in Greece. Everybody the men hold hands, the girls hold hands, everyone's holding hands.
Yeah.
And no, they're not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's the camaraderie. There's a brotherhood. It happened in Italy. I lived there and I saw it too, just sing, walking down the street, all holding hands, singing, really loud, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
We haven't had a question for 16 minutes. And so I'm thinking we should put out a call for next questions. And if there aren't any, maybe we should
let me see.
Do other things with our lives. Like see if we can hold our breath for 3 minutes, that sort of thing.
I don't know if I can do that anymore.
How long we got left?
How long we got left? They're always asking you that, guys.
That's basically
they trap you in a corner and then they say, look, Steve,
Right. So let's see. Talking about eating bugs. Yes. Let's go balls to the wall with fusion energy and hang on. Yeah, right.
Civilization is a heat engine.
Thank you, Brooklyn Jammers. That is very generous. We really appreciate that. You're such a doll. Is it desperate that we have so few watching? It is desperate that we have so few watching. Yes. Well, that's part of the problem here, folks. you know, Guy's been hacked over the years. And we know this from a personal friend who signed on to help him do his PR about 7 years ago. And she came over to Guy from having worked with the Dalai Lama and with Nelson Mandela.
Interesting.
Yes. So this woman knew her shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she went on his Twitter feed and she went through and she just was like, you are totally, you've got all kinds of algorithms in there to slow down his reach. And she did what she could.
Wow.
But it doesn't work, 100%. And I'm not an IT person.
And there's new hackers every day.
Yeah.
And I've had a variety of volunteer IT people who work with me, but they got lives too. And I can't expect them to keep going for years.
It's becoming so complex.
Yeah.
Can I go through my little list? If we're going to get off, then we're going to get off. It's not a little list.
Is it a grocery list?
No, it's what people can do. What people can do to prevent themselves from being depressed or being, suicidal or whatever.
Let's hear that.
Okay.
Let's hear that.
Do what you're passionate about, what you love. Human beings are cooperative, compassionate people, and they like to be of service. So let's do more of that. Become a part of a movement motivated by love and service, helping. Eco-restoration. Okay, even knowing that's not going to give it, doesn't matter if you go with a bunch of friends and for a vacation and you plant 1,000 trees.
Like Kevin Hester.
Yeah, I know. You're doing something.
At the same time, we each have 3 minutes, and with every breath we get a reset. We can extend that to the other parts of ecosystems as well. It's not just human animals. It's all animals. It's all plants. It's all life on Earth. Let's give them a chance for as long as we can. And maybe everybody I cite is wrong about everything. And we got a few more million years left.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
People have been wrong before. The most conservative peer-reviewed journal is the Annual Review series. And the Annual Review of Earth and Planetary Sciences, 2012 issue, it only comes out once a year in January. There was a projection of an ice-free Arctic in 2016, plus or minus 3 years. Here we are, 2022, no ice-free Arctic. So sometimes the science gets it wrong.
Yeah, that's what science is about.
Absolutely.
It's not God. It's just an inquiry, as best we can, right? Okay, so even if all these things are futile, you do them because it makes you feel good. And even if you're working a zillion jobs, there's something you can fit in there somewhere, right? Planetary hospice. I tell my students, I'm like, for as long as we're here, there's so many types of things that you could become, like a biologist, and go out and do environmental restoration and sleep in the forest, or if you're interested in psychology, oh my God, we're going to need so many of you to help all the people come to terms with this grief and this dread and this, so it doesn't become entirely chaotic and murderous and all of the rest. You could try dismantling the system. I don't know how you would do that. Be an artist, bring attention to the cracks in the hegemony. I do that. Experience beauty as if it is for the first time. And I actually got that from that book. Become a peaceful yet powerful warrior. Love someone like you've never loved it before. Do not shrink from who you really are. Understand that it's truly different to be than to have, which is where our culture gets it all wrong, right? Trade material riches for spiritual riches, social riches. Educators tell the truth. tell the truth. Don't lie.
Mhm.
Do not lie. Ever. And everyone who knows this should never lie, even if it means your friends are going to think you're a whack job. Have a child, like I said. Engage in resilience communities or deep adaptation or transition town, all these, create a local little economy that you could get started and maybe have it up and running in 9 months from now,
Mhm.
Prepare our societies for collapse, depending on how you could do that. Imagine boldly and imagine with courage. And love is all there is. That's got to be present in everything. Hatred will not get us anywhere.
No, it does get us, it gets us in the wrong place. And we saw
Yes.
what we've just been watching in the news where that's been getting
Yeah.
some of our young people.
Well, maybe they just can't handle it. Maybe you're going to see so much. These kids need people that get it to help debrief them,
Mhm.
to help them gain their self-esteem in this potentially horrific moment in time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Otherwise, it's going to turn into a shit show.
Well,
Good.
for many people, it's already a shit show.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
Having this
Did you want to talk
conversation.
about? Yeah.
Well, someone in this chat mentioned Ethel Blaze.
Yeah. Good.
And he writes, a good YouTuber knew all about NTHE and he killed himself. He often cited Guy's videos. His name was Ethel Blaze. That wasn't his real name. We don't really know what his real name was. But he was a college student, away from home, a young man, 25 years old.
Very intelligent.
Very bright. And he was wrestling with these existential issues. And, he didn't have a support system.
No.
And he
You
thought
have to
he
have
did.
it.
He thought he did. But the reality is, when you're alone like that, and you isolate, even if you're talking to people like this, it's not a good scenario. It doesn't. Yeah, there's such a high rate of suicide for young men from 18 to 25 that suicide is the second leading cause of death in that age group. And so this is why it's so important that if anybody is entertaining these ideas, these thoughts, having suicidal ideation, or if you know someone who is, talk to them. Don't judge them. People are going through very difficult things, struggling with emotional stuff, intellectual stuff. In fact, another study shows that highly intelligent people suffer the higher rate of depression.
Of course. I call it an occupational hazard
Mhm.
to be a sociologist teaching this stuff. It is.
Yeah.
Because I suffer from that. I've been suffering from that for decades, knowing this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know this stuff. Because of my parents, I've been suffering depression off and on since I was 7. And so I know what it feels like. It's not nice.
Yeah.
And it can come on suddenly. It can be triggered by an incident. And you just spiral. You spiral down. And
Yeah.
and I'm 59 and I'm an attempt survivor. And it is so important to know when that's happening that you can get through it. It does get better. It gets bad again, but it gets better again. But the trick is to know that it's happening. 80% of college students who attempted and succeeded did not talk to a therapist or talk to someone. 80%.
Well, I get it. I wouldn't. If I was thinking about doing that, I would talk to my dear friends who, like you guys, I could count them all on less than 10 fingers.
Yeah.
And because I know they would like totally be right in my head, and there'd be no judgment. There would just be love, and that's what is needed at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's so hard. There's so much shame. And you don't know what someone's going through when they're thinking about it. When they're trying to, make these decisions. They feel like the world would be better without them. And they're in pain. And they just want it to end.
They want to be free.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
Many of them. I can't speak for all of them. I'm not an expert in that field either, so don't quote me on any of that. But freedom. They want to be free from this shit.
Yeah.
This crap. This, look at
right.
My students haven't read any Orwell, Huxley, Brave, nothing. No, I haven't read any of it. I'm like, I think I'm going to create a class around that.
Yeah.
Thought you were going to retire.
Well,
That's the rumor
some
I
things
heard.
you just gotta do. Some things you just gotta do. It's like, dang, I gotta get through to them. Now I'm not getting through to them and I'm doing the same thing. So let's try another angle.
I was on speaking tour once, and I'm scheduled to talk the next day, and I don't know who. So I contact the person who's going to be hosting me, and it was for her Vonnegut class, and she was teaching a class in Vonnegut, and a colleague's class in I don't know, particle physics or something completely unrelated. Like, wow, that's interesting. 250 people showed up.
Wow.
That was pretty amazing. Yeah, I thought there'd be 20 people there and half of them knew Vonnegut, right?
Right.
Full house.
It was cool.
Wow. What do you think that was about?
I have no idea. When I go to a college campus, people get the word out or they don't. And it just takes one person putting up flyers here and there, putting on the electronic bulletin board, telling a few people, and it's everywhere. And then the other 90% of the time, the person who's in charge, who invited me, just doesn't go to the effort.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They do the invite and then they don't actually do the legwork.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that. So I want to say one other thing about this angst and dread and all of these things is that, people have been saying this for ever, so you have Krishnamurti, right? Saying is no, what's the word? It's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society.
Right.
And I share that with my students and I'm like, this is not normal, right?
Right.
And then you have Gabor Mate, who just published a book called The Myth of Normal. And he's pulling it out from many other different angles. And this is what we need to realize as a species, that what we're living is not normal. And therefore, we are going to have very, very strong reactions many. And that's okay, because that means you're normal.
It's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to feel bad.
It's okay to feel.
It's okay to feel. Yeah. It's okay to be wrong.
Mm.
You know, that's how we learn.
Especially when it's me.
That's how we learn. You know,
Yeah.
when a baby is learning to walk, they fall down a lot. Can you imagine if they just said, you know, I'm never getting up again. Screw this walking thing.
Yeah.
You gotta keep trying. You gotta keep trying.
You have to. It's our human spirit, you know? And I'm probably taking this totally out of context too. I've just been looking at Nietzsche a lot recently, and like, you know, the will to power. It's like, it's a human drive. It's a human drive to survive and to be courageous and to do whatever is necessary, you know, to keep going, to persist, to, you know, and, you know, probably a lot of people say, huh, you don't know Nietzsche at all. Well, I haven't studied some Nietzsche, but anyway, it's intrinsic in all of us, I think. The giving up is, yes, we see it occur all the time. Maybe because those people don't know that we're living in a sick society and they feel ashamed, right? And there's work to do on that front. Big work.
Right.
We need a lot more of us out there. And all y'all too, over there in the chat.
Well, how do you respond to this comment in the chat that what we're talking about is just privileged vomit right now?
No. Oh God. Collapsing with Casey.
Encouraging
I would
people
ask
to
you,
commit.
encouraging them to commit suicide? Is that what you're talking about, Casey?
No, he's
I
saying
would say, you know, Casey, I'm going to be a Socratic teacher with you. What do you think? What do you think? You have privilege too. So we have privilege. That means we have to just go away and climb under a rock. I don't know. You think about it. You wear that for a while. Yeah. Yeah, you wear that.
I have a list too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I showed you most of my list.
I like your list. You want to see my list?
Show me your list. Lists are things for privileged people, though.
That's right.
Okay.
So, yeah. Create a supportive environment. And that means in your home, in your friend system, in your family life, detox yourself from toxic friends and family. There are a lot of toxic people out there. And that's a big one. And I have quit college if that's stressing you.
Yeah. Do something else.
No reason to do that.
It was stressing me.
Yeah.
Stressed all of us, dang it.
Yeah. It's an institution from elementary school to college. It's all institutionalized. It's like
it's a hazing. Qualifying for your doctorate is a hazing process to see if you can stand up to the stress that's going to be happening for the rest of your career.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then make your home your sanctuary. Yeah. You've got to make your home your sanctuary. It's the place you run to. You know, you walk through that door, you get in here, and it can't look like this room. This is our studio. So it's kind of like crazy in here. but
I like that wood up there though. That's kind
it's
of
kinda-
warming, warms my soul a little bit.
Yeah, it's not so warm when all this stuff comes through it though from outside.
It was a little
Um,
leaky when we moved in.
I
Yes.
heard about the leaks.
And our
That's
home,
fine first.
and we worked really hard the first year we moved in here to make this
Yeah.
place our sanctuary. It was really important to me. I
Yeah.
was not comfortable until I had it just right, where I just
I hear you.
and go into nature as much as possible. Get outside, walk outside. It's been proven that an hour in nature is lowers your blood pressure and de-stresses you and relieves depression. It is a natural cure. Touch the earth, feel it.
You
And
roll around in it.
those positive feelings persist for at least an hour, even if you're in the middle of the city afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity, if you are privileged enough to have a garden or access to a garden, and you put your hands in the dirt, in the soil, obviously you can't do that in the winter, but there are endorphins in the soil that make us feel good, that actually can give you a high.
There's in that video game. Yeah, for sure.
The video games are fun. The video games are great for the middle of the night.
Okay, I'm not going there. I'd rather, I don't know. I'd rather read
Animal
some
Crossing
Nietzsche.
Animal Crossing is beautiful.
I think I got lost with Pac-Man. That was it for me. But yeah, nature, I have a huge project that I assigned to my students in my, quote, sustainability class. I don't know what to call it now. Where it's called Declaring Sacred Ground. And actually Daniel Dancer wrote this for my class, and he's a big eco artist. And there's 10 steps. So they have to cut aside a half a day somewhere, and they have to go out. They have to figure out the spot where they're going to go. And it can't be like your backyard or like the park downtown. It's got to be somewhere remote, and you ask, you think about, what is the question that you want to ask nature, that you want nature to conspire with you, to help you, to be with you, right? And when you've decided on the perfect place and the perfect time, you go there, you find something that looks like a portal, maybe between two stumps or rocks or something like that. And as you go through the portal, you might throw some sage. Don't let it burn, though, not in California. And then you are now in sacred time, and everything has significance. So even trash, well, what kind of can, what does it say on that can? Or, just anything you find in nature. And a lot of it's trash, and a lot of it's just, beautiful things that people make. Maybe they found a cow skull and then they wove flowers in through it, or something like that. And, and then, to write about it. So there's 10 steps, and, typically the most sort of, I've got a hippie professor. That's what I am, that's what they call me, the hippie professor. And I had surgery on my eye one time. So she's stoned all the time. It was a surgery. Sorry. And my hippie professor wants me to go out and do this woo-woo shit. Right. And those are the ones that come back with the most transformative experiences. They always have.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great. Those sound wonderful.
Yeah.
I was just reminded by a book called Every Cradle is a Grave by Sarah Perry. This anti-natalist wrote this wonderful book, and Guy interviewed her several years on the Nature Bats Last radio channel. That's a really interesting and really good book that people should get their teeth into. It's really good.
And I made a mistake with my first question. I asked her something about why she was so anti-life, and she says, no, not at all. I'm anti-natalist. It's a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Birth. She's anti-birth. But
Yes.
she's
Yes.
okay with the people that are already here.
Right.
Yes, there's nothing to be done with the people who are already here except to
Mhm.
improve their lives,
Right.
to
Or
help
make
each
them
other get
feel-
through this, whatever
Yeah.
this is.
Okay.
But she didn't want more life brought onto the planet of any kind.
Yeah. That's
Not
a
even monarch butterflies?
Ah,
About 75% of them? Not even monarch butterflies?
not even shrooms. I have no idea what she was up to.
she's not an epilist, she's antinatalist.
Yeah, I
Two very
know.
distinct things.
I just learned a lot this week from this
Yeah.
stuff you sent me.
Us too. Very, very disturbing.
Mhm.
Very important to find like-minded people,
Oh, yeah.
even if you're all wrong. Be together and
It's
be wrong
everything.
together.
Yeah, it's everything. It's everything.
Be
I mean,
gentle
for the
with
last
yourself.
20 years, for
Yeah,
the last 20 years, I don't have anyone in my anywhere that doesn't know pretty much the things I know.
right.
I don't think
Yeah.
I could. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's true. I mean, can you imagine
No, I can't
if
imagine.
just being with someone of the opposite philosophy of life?
Walking away. I will try. I will debate. I will discuss.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do those things. I know how to do that as an academic without attacking. But if you're just going to continue to be, what I would consider stupid,
Mhm.
Eckhart Tolle said this the other day. He was on Russell Brand. You
Oh,
gotta watch it.
I love Russell
Oh my
Brand.
God, Eckhart Tolle. You should have heard the stuff he was saying. They're just stupid. Not that they're not intelligent. It's just that they don't have any wisdom. So that means they're stupid.
That's what he was saying about people.
The structure.
Yeah.
And people,
Right.
but the structure, everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, Eckhart Tolle? Wait, I gotta watch this again. What'd you say? So at some point I will walk away because I have too many things to do in my life to,
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important that we advocate for ourselves and tell people that we're uncomfortable with something and and you don't have to be angry. I mean, at a person, just say, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to hear that right now. And I think I learned a lot from my kids because they have mad skills in self-advocating. And I credit that to our really bad parenting skills. are very hands-off. Don't let them don't introduce them to religion and give them lots of science and art and let them, go be wild kids. And they're amazing people. They're incredible people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they don't suffer from stress and issues and things. They do, but they have, moments of beauty and joy that, keeps them going. Keeps them going.
Yeah.
It's very
I think
important.
we should all have a pill we can take that's a huge download of nonviolent communication techniques. And just put it in the water supply.
Some people would say that's what fluoride did. made everyone very passive.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm going to look at some of these comments here. Just don't look up. Matt Hunter, very good. That was a really good film. Guy really enjoyed watching Finch.
Oh, Finch, you were telling me about that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Finch.
I think it was better than Don't Look Up because it more realistically and more subtly displayed all kinds of likely phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Lost Fairsaw masking, nuclear power plants melting down,
Oh,
stripping
that
away
was all
stratospheric
there.
ozone. Yeah, without ever mentioning it. But if you know about it, you can see it.
Oh, oh, good. They just put it in there sort of subliminally, or
I'm guessing 90% of the people watching had no idea what was going
of
on.
course, right?
And it wasn't all that important, obviously.
Can I ask you maybe, how do you define the idea of privilege?
Oh, well, this is a kind of a loaded question for a sociologist in these times, but it's pretty simple. My definition, the way I think about it, is people who can pretty much do or go where they please. People who do not necessarily much have to suffer the consequences of many of their actions. You know, they can get away with stuff. And yeah, and people who don't think about the other 83% of the people in the world that are not privileged. And, you know, even in our country, there's such a huge divide between privileged and unprivileged, and the privileged are becoming fewer and fewer because the middle class has been falling down since Ronald Reagan, zap. And yeah, so yeah, it's people who can mill around with whoever and wherever they want and not have to worry about the consequences of their actions unless they're very egregious. I don't know, it's just a little, I could probably write a dissertation about it if you want, but I don't know. I'm like, you know, when I retire, I'm going to finish my PhD. I'm going to write my dissertation.
Good luck
It'd
putting
be
that
so
committee.
easy.
Good
Eyes
luck putting that
closed.
committee together.
Will you be on that committee?
I was just going to say, good luck putting that committee together.
Oh, I could find them.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely serve.
Thanks. Okay.
As
Anyway.
one of the more privileged people in all of history, you know,
Oh God,
heterosexual Caucasian man.
Man, yeah.
That's the trifecta of privilege.
Right, trifecta.
Yep.
And I
Here's,
chose,
you know,
I chose the right parents and the right time to be born. That
Those
was
are
clever.
great choices that you made. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I guess we're all privileged. You know, if you look at us here on this panel,
Oh yeah.
I guess people would just all say, well, shit, you're talking on all these fancy devices and you're sitting in your office as your college, you know, blah, blah, blah.
We don't have bombs falling on us, you know.
No, we don't have, you know, scabies on our skin. I don't know. It's all of it.
Have you had scabies?
No, I haven't. Thank the
I
Lord.
have.
And I don't want to have it. Oh, yeah. Whoa.
The whole family had scabies. Yeah.
That's like, oh, it's impossible to get rid of. Like, takes forever, right?
It was horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pregnant.
Oof.
So it was terrifying.
Oh, that was horrifying. Well, someone might say, well, there you go, you privilege. I would never say that to anyone. But, you know, the poorest people in the world, they suffer from the kinds of scourges like that every day, all the time, 24/7.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And I think that it's our job, our duty to be conscious of that and to do everything that we can to help people like that when you see that.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree. Suffering is not okay.
Nope, suffering's not okay.
Even though it's part of life, but
there's, you know, that you say that word again, suffering is not okay. There's this group of people who think that if you're suffering, you should just end it no matter what at that point. And
well, that's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
That's a cop out. That's a cowardly way to go.
Well, it depends. Is it are you at the end of your life and you're suffering?
I would kill
That's-
myself.
That would not be
Like-
a cop.
Like I had 2 weeks to live and
Yeah.
No. Give me the
And
morphine.
right. My best friend from fourth grade, her father got prostate cancer. And he said he was, he joined the Hemlock Society.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult decision for his family to accept.
Yeah.
My,
Oh my God.
my best
Well,
friend
yeah.
accepted it just fine, but her brother didn't take it very well. And it's because it's complicated. Losing people that you love is not
Mm.
easy.
Yeah.
But
Because
if you
they
allow
suffer.
people, right. Yeah. You have to let people go on their terms. Not children.
Mm.
Not-
No,
Not youngsters.
no, no, no,
Uh-uh.
no.
No. We
No.
are here. We are always here to listen and to be there for you. If anyone has any kind of issues going on and you're thinking of checking out and you're not over 40.
Yeah. Turn on.
Yeah.
To talk.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's it doesn't hurt to wait. It doesn't hurt to wait. Yeah, you can be in a bad place, but I can tell you from my own experience, if I had waited, then I would have been in a better place and I would have made some better decisions for myself
Mhm.
and my family.
Mhm.
So it's really important for people to know that you can get through, a difficult emotional situation. You
Yeah,
can
human
get through it.
beings are extremely pliable. It's not the right word. I think of Frankel's Search for Meaning. And
Oh, yeah.
I give that to a lot of
That's a
people
good one.
because, man, if he could live through that, the horrors of Nazi Germany and being in a concentration camp and losing everybody, and he could survive that, then
And losing everything.
losing
Right.
everything.
He was giving breadcrumbs to his fellow inmates. And that was the kindest thing he could do, was provide for the survival of another person for a few more minutes. Man's Search for Meaning. If you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend it.
Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning.
Victor
Did I
Frankl.
say that one? Viktor Frankl. That's a great book. I had my daughter read that last year. She loved it. It's all about perspective.
Ethel Zach donated $20 and said, "Stop having kids."
I'm having
And
kids. I'll give you $20.
I agree. Definitely.
All right. I see time to wrap. Shall we wrap?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed you. I've really enjoyed being with you both and with everyone here virtually. And if there's ever anything I can do for anyone, you can get my contact information from Guy and Pauline. And thank you once again. I think this was a super important conversation.
And I'm guessing with an online search engine, we can find Mimi Riley at Butte College without much difficulty.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Thank you. And thank you,
Okay.
Mimi, so much. It was
Yeah, thank you.
wonderful. So
Thank you, my
great.
friend.
I'm going to end the live stream, but don't go away.
Okay.
Thanks,
I'll
everybody.
stay around for the after party.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And we really appreciate your support and listening in and asking your questions and having pretty respectful and amazing conversation here in this thread. I'm really proud of everyone. It was really intelligent. You guys are great.
Yeah.
You guys are really amazing. Well done, everyone. Now I have to figure out how to end this.
Have a beautiful evening, everyone.
Yes.